Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Morley.
And today, Danny and I are discussing depression.
Yeah, well, I just went through another wave and I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's important to talk about these things. And what was really interesting was as I was moving through this last wave of depression, I went back in time and started to notice that when I was 6, I suffered from an abandonment wound. My mum left, and that caused a lot of emotional pain. And since that age, about every 4 to 5 years, I will cycle through these really heavy waves. And it was really cool to see how it was so cyclical. You know, every 4 to 5 years, I would have this wave of depression. It would get triggered by one thing or the other. And I would enter this state of just really low feeling, like, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Ellie, like really low, just like beyond what I would think it is normal to feel, just completely empty. And in between these waves of these cycles of depression, there were these periods of my life where I would get really high and I would be really enjoying myself. And then following that, it would be this period of more darkness and suffering and pain. And I'm finding now, like the last time this came, bar the one I'm talking about now, this lasted for around a year and a half to 2 years. So it was no short time. It was a really challenging and difficult time, and it did lead to a huge awakening and bringing me onto this path. So ultimately now I'm very appreciative and grateful for what it brought. But I couldn't see that at the time. It used to drive me nuts when I was so depressed and I would be looking for ways out and someone would be like, just focus on gratitude. And it would be like, I can't feel anything. I feel empty. How the hell am I supposed to just focus on gratitude and feel better when I can't access any emotion? It wasn't that I felt sad. It was that I felt nothing, complete nothingness. And those like things that I was looking to and saying, Joe, just feel grateful, feel appreciative for what you do have. It's like, yeah, that could be useful to build the practice of entering the frequency of gratitude. But when you have a bunch of pain blocking you from feeling that, you can't access that gratitude. So I look back now in gratitude because I'm not in that energetic place anymore. I've moved along on the path a lot more, and I'm much more in this place of accepting what is coming up. And this time when this wave came, instead of it lasting 2 years, I moved through the whole cycle in 5 days. Which is a huge upgrade from about 700 days to around 5 days. And I have a feeling another one of these waves will come. Don't know when, sometime in my life, but because of the skills that I've learned, because of what I learned from this last experience, which is what I want to get into, I'm now able to move through this a lot quicker. And I know that when this lesson comes again, it's instead of being 4 or 5 days, it's going to be few hours, maybe a day or two. Who knows what the universe, my soul, will bring to me as a challenge to go into.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know, when you were moving through that 5 days of depression, I was shocked at what it made me feel. And I know that I'm working through right now, like when you're happy, I'm happy. And I think, I've spoken about this before, but you are usually very energetic and full of life and lively. And like, you can catch Danny most of the time dancing around, right? But when I witnessed you hitting that low, it made me feel my low, and I didn't like it. I was trying to do everything so that you can get out of that, so that I could avoid feeling what was coming up for me. And something that I did for Danny was, it felt so, where he was so low, and it was igniting my low, because mine isn't cyclical. Mine's just always there. I've always been severely depressed. And while yours is a nothingness, mine is this, I don't want to live. It's like, it's almost, I feel such deep sadness. And I wish there was another word for sadness, because I feel like it's even lower than sadness. So I can't relate to the nothingness. I just feel this really, really deep hole, never ending well of just the a kind of emotion that I can't even describe. And so what I did, and I realized I did this, and I got you an hour massage and a Reiki healing. And I was so desperate for him to get out of this, because I was trying to avoid myself, that I got him this hour, and he came back from it. And, I shared with you, I was like, I think I did that because I didn't want to feel what I was feeling. And I just wanted you to be okay, because if you're okay, then I'm okay. And you said to me, only you will know if you got that massage from me out of weakness or not. And I knew the answer completely. It was like, I needed you to be fine so that I could be fine. And it's been like that my whole life. Like, if my mom's okay, I'm okay. If the people around me are okay, I'm okay. And that's complete attachment and codependency. But you spiraling into your depression definitely spiraled me into my darkness and my pain. And I'm constantly still find myself avoiding the pain, because when I go in so deep. And you and I have discussed this too. Like, I get lost in my depression. And it wasn't until this work where I saw how much I got lost in my suffering. And like you, when I'm depressed, it comes like in different forms. Sometimes I'm in bed for days and I can't get up because I don't want to live. Other times, full blown, I feel everything. I'm losing control. My nervous system is completely flipped on its ass. And I feel like everything is spiraling so quickly. And you've seen me in some of my worst moments. And I remember you telling me the last time that I was going through it, you're like, you're getting lost. I literally see you getting lost. And this is what so many of us do. We get lost in our programs. We get lost in our mind. We get lost in these emotions that are stirred up within us. And then we don't believe that there's any way out. And becoming super self-aware of my depression, and understanding it's not that I use the word depression, but there are so many actual underneath programs that I'm running. Just the depression is the big umbrella. Underneath the depression is a lot of pain that I don't want to feel. And I think that's why it's easy for me to get lost in it, because if I get lost in it, then I don't actually have to go into everything else that it's bringing up.
Yep. So perfect. Let's define exactly what depression is from my own personal experience. So for me, depression is created in one's life, in my life, when I'm at a place of complete resistance to feeling something. So anxiety and depression are both they're both these blanket umbrella terms that we can use when we're in resistance. So an anxiety, we're in resistance to what is, and we're trapped in the mind. We're just all the survival centers, all the panic, everything's switching on. Depression is where we're resisting feeling something super deep. And so we go into this low vibratory state, this really low frequency.
Yep.
And it's there because we have to move through this low density, but we're resisting it. So we stay in it. And until we find our power, it took me years, you can move through this process slowly. And you will get there. It does take time. You can move through, but it will come back in this cycle. You might notice this in your life. And if you haven't, maybe you spend some time. If you do experience depression, just spend some time and have a look at what times did this happen in my life. Is there a pattern? Does it happen right after a good period, or what triggers this period, these cycles that we can enter? So for me, depression, as I've mentioned before, is this experience of pure emptiness, because that's the pain that I'm resisting. I'm too afraid to go into that. For you, Ellie, it might be this deep sadness. I'd love for you to talk about exactly what you experience. But yeah, for me, I enter this place and it's just like life is gray. Everything has lost its meaning. I'm not connected to myself. I'm not connected to the environment. I don't feel like connection with my friends. I lost connection to love, to the joys of life. When I would look outside, it was the lens. Everything I was looking through was like, it was wrong. It was annoying. It was dark. All these different things. It was like the life had been sucked out of everything. Life had just been sucked out of everything. And for me, there's nothing worse than not feeling alive, than not feeling that joy. And because I am normally a person who is very enthusiastic about life and very excited, when I get into these low places, because of the disparity, because of the huge difference, it really makes me aware of how low I am. Because I'm like, damn, I'm normally just enjoying life. I can normally enjoy the smell of a fresh breeze. I can look outside and enjoy the vibrancy of a green tree. And now I'm moving through life and everything looks like the shirt that I'm wearing. I love that I just chose this to record this podcast with. And this is exactly, to me, what depression does to your life. It makes everything gray. It makes everything murky and like just not enjoyable. And it happens because we're resisting something deep within.
Yeah. For me, it gets triggered a lot by loneliness. I feel so alone. I feel like nobody understands me. I don't understand this world. I think a lot about the future, and I feel such a sense of hopelessness. Like there's no point to anything. There's no point to life. What's the point of living if I can't connect to anybody and I don't connect to anything? And I feel severe anxiety when I'm going through depression. And I know it's because I'm getting lost in my mind and everything that it's feeding me. And also, I could feel layers of pain, but I won't touch it. But it brings me down to that density. I won't go and search for what's in the density, but I'll sit in that. And that's enough to ruin me. And, I've talked about this before, but I run a program of dread. And this program really makes me not want to live. I don't see the world in anything but it's just dark. Everything's dark. And I've run this program my whole life, like even being a little child and just looking out and being like, everything's dark. There's no hope here. There's no light here. And that's followed me in so many areas. So when I get triggered by loneliness, if it's a breakup, if it's I get fired, I can remember like all of these big moments in my life where I went into depression was when I lost something that I felt really attached to that gave me meaning to living. And when that was gone, I would just sink because then what's the point? I can't see beyond this because there is nothing beyond this. And once I'm in there, forget about it. Like you can't get me. It's so hard to pull me out until I get to a place where I'm like, well, you're not going to kill yourself. So you either got to buck up and move on, or you just do it, Elle, because you can't stay in bed for the like however many more weeks. And the option, I can't do the latter. I can't off myself. So I got to get up and keep going. And all of my life, it's been there because I haven't healed it. I've never looked into it. So back to like antidepressants, every single time I would go into like these spirals, I would have panic attacks. I would, just lock myself in my room. My parents were so worried about me. I went to the doctors and they just shoved pills down my throat. And so now I'm in a place where my body is used to suppressing. My body is used to numbing. My body is used to not feeling most of the things that I'm running, because it's got this thing that goes into my body and makes me numb. And so I thought that was the answer. So every time I'd go to my psychiatrist and I'd be like, I'm spiraling, like I'm not good. She'd go, let's higher the dose. And I'd be like, okay, great. Let's like make it the highest dose, because I don't want to feel any of this. And now I'm in a place, it's like, man, I spent 19 years running and hiding and not understanding and knowing that all you got to do is feel the pain, Ellie, because it is so much worse for me to be on this side of things. And now that I'm opening and I'm creating spaciousness and I'm allowing myself to dive into the pain, the layers are thick. And you being my partner, you witness a lot of this and you see a lot of this sadness in me. And I know that I'm well on my way to really healing, but I know that there's so much for me to go into still, that I'm still like I get triggered so much because I have so much inside. And so I honor the journey that got me here. I wouldn't have awakened if I didn't have all of these experiences and I didn't have depression. So I'm in a place now where like I really, when depression comes knocking on my door, like I don't shame it anymore. I don't deny it. I don't pill it. I just go, okay, we're doing this. Go, because the other option is just it. The other option didn't work. So I'm just going to be here open to you now.
And that's exactly the understanding that I had to get to in this last experience. Was the universe was presenting me with this. And last year it happened, I want to say at least once, maybe twice. It definitely happened once. As I was moving through the MLC program, I felt this heavy weight, which I knew exactly what it was, but I didn't fear it this time. I wasn't resisting it. It arrived as I was laid in bed, and I just sat with it, and I was able to drop into my heart and just feel what it was bringing up. And within a couple minutes, it started to move. After about 20 minutes of being with this energy, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, I felt it start to really transmute. And then by the time I got to work, because I had to work that day, I think someone made a comment like, "Oh, you seem a little off today." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And then by the afternoon, I was back to myself and I was like, wow, that everything that I did just really worked. This time it was like a tidal wave came. A tidal wave came and took me down.
Yeah.
And I know what the tidal wave was from. I just went home to visit family, and I've spent the last year and a quarter opening myself, understanding where all of my programs and childhood wounds come from, exactly how everything in my life had led up to the point that I'm at now, and why I act the way that I act. So when I went home for the first time in 4 years and I'm entering that energy again, it took me back. I got to see where everything came from, spend time with my parents, my family members. It was a beautiful time over Christmas, but it did bring up a lot. And that's super normal for someone doing this work. If you are learning how to open your heart and process your pain, when you then go back into situations with your family, you're going to see new things. You're going to feel, the more attuned you get to what energies are lying within your body, what frequency you're at, you're going to start to feel that in others. And when you feel it in others, it then triggers whatever's left in you.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back from the UK, I'm back in the US, like it hit me like a train. I walked in the door in our new place in San Diego, and it was like, here it is. And so the question is, how do you get out? What's the solution? What's the magic pill I can take to remove this depression? There is no magic pill. I'm sorry if you believe that. There is no magic pill, but there are skills that you can learn for you to master your own self when something like depression arrives. So the number one thing is learning to connect to your power. Once you become a powerful being, you will not resist what pain shows up at your door. The difference between a powerful and a powerless being is that a powerful being embraces challenge and adversity and evolves and rises above. If you are powerless, which is how I've showed up in the past, life happens to you, not for you.
Yes.
You're becoming a victim. I've done this so much. Victim consciousness. You're giving away your power by becoming the victim. Doesn't mean that you're not victimized. That things will happen to you in life, but it's your choice on whether you hang on to the fact that it is your responsibility right now to heal whatever it is that's coming up for you. So tapping into your power, that doesn't mean becoming someone like Hitler who's leading with force and fear. That means tapping into the truth of who you are, a powerful being beyond all measure that you could ever imagine. Understanding what it means to feel into your heart and allow these energies, emotions, that's what we're talking about here, emotion, energy in motion, allowing these emotions of whatever it is that you're suppressing to be felt with an open heart. Now, you mentioned earlier, Ellie, feel the pain, 100% feel the pain, but feel the pain with an open heart. If you haven't learned to fully open your heart, you might be just feeling the pain and getting stuck in the program, getting stuck in the depression. Only when we feel something from an open heart will it raise its vibration. So connecting to your power first, understanding what it means to open yourself. And then when this depression or this adversity or this pain or whatever it is that you're experiencing in life comes to you, you're able to process what it is. So that in this example, I'm going home, I'm starting to feel all of these things that I haven't felt since I was a kid. It's triggering all this abandonment, this loneliness, this frustration, this anger, all of these different emotions. You never saw me, you never heard me. All these things which are starting to come up, instead of resisting feeling the pain, we're able to open our hearts and honestly look at it and really feel it. And so for me, what was coming up was I had to go into the emptiness. That was what it was bringing up. And I had so much resistance in the past from going in there because I wasn't connected to the truth of who I am. I wasn't connected to my power. So as I'm moving through this experience, I realized with the help of, I was working with Coach Rachel Baker, and she really got me there, allowed me to see I had to, in all of this work, everything we've learned is about connecting to our light and bringing our light and our love to it. But this particular wound that was showing up, what I was being asked to do was to leave all that at the door. To, as the warrior emerges, to put down the sword and shield and fully surrender. Because surrender is the cure to resistance. If you're resisting something and you learn how to fully surrender into it, well, then there's no resistance. And that's exactly what depression is.
Yeah.
So as I'm moving through this experience and going into the emptiness and experiencing all of this resistance, I had to just go sit in the black, in the pitch black, and be fully okay with feeling whatever was in there. And the irony was, when I was able to fully stop trying to love it, stop trying to bring my light to it, stop trying to alchemize it, stop trying to transform it, stop trying to dissolve it, I was finally at a place of surrender. I was finally at a place of loving the pain that was there, loving the emptiness, because I was entering it and being with it and nurturing it and being present, fully present with the emptiness.
Yeah.
And the irony is that allowed the spark of my light to be found in the dark. It was only by fully going in and surrendering to the darkness that I was experiencing. It was just what I was experiencing inside was just complete black. And when I really sat in that and was like, it's okay that you're here. I'm okay to sit in this. This is going to be okay. And in there, I started to see, this black, this emptiness that I was afraid of all this time. This emptiness is not empty. It's full. There's light everywhere. And then the process of alchemy could begin. And it was only by letting go, by surrendering, could I get there. And that's been a huge lesson for me. And so that I just wanted to come in here and really share that story, because I think it's super valuable.
As when you were talking, this vision came to me of in Home Alone. Kevin is so afraid of like the radiator chimney thing in his basement, and he's so scared. And when he looks at it, it's like this monster. And then over time, he finds his power and he goes down there and he faces it. He's like, oh, it was nothing. And I run a huge resistance program when it's time to go into the pitch black. How can we love the resistance? The resistance there, it has always been there to protect you, right? To not feel all of that is in there. And for me, when you told me how you went in and you fully surrendered, like, another thing that we try to do, or I try to do sometimes, it's like, you got to bring the light. You got to bring the light. It's like, Ellie, you're not listening. You're not in the stillness right now. You're not listening to what your heart is asking of you. What is here? What do you need right now? And for you in that moment, it was like surrender to what is. And for me, it's like every time I don't want to go in, it's like, well, love that program, because it's there. The more you love it, the more it'll begin to dissolve into power, so that the next time you do get triggered, it's like, ooh, there's no resistance. Let's go in. And that's the beauty of this work. You know, it's like every single time you find your ego trying to take over, it's not going to fall. It's not going to flow. It's not going to feel this feeling of like, ooh, this is where I'm supposed to be, because my ego gets in the way of like, gotta go in, you gotta sit when you gotta bring the light, open your heart. And it's like, no, sometimes I just need to listen and be still and honor whatever age is showing up and being like, what do you? Sometimes she wants to rage. Sometimes she just wants to sit with me. Sometimes she wants to open her heart. Sometimes she needs a hug. Whatever it is, whatever is needed of you is exactly where you're supposed to be. But until we allow ourselves to go in, we will always stay out. And I've stayed out for 32 years, and I'm not here to stay out anymore. It's like every door that opens into me, I have a choice constantly. I can run or I can walk in. And in the walking in, can you go in with the knowing, the remembrance of who you are is the thing that keeps me going. It's the remembrance of who I am. These moments of, oh, okay, I understand. Okay, I'm not here to deny you. I'm not here to shame you. I'm not here to hate you. I used to hate my depression. And I'm like, I love you. Sorry, you're an aspect of me. We're here to love our shadow selves, because unconditional love, the vibration of that, when you bring it to shame and guilt and unworthiness and abandonment, it has no choice but to transform. That's alchemy.
And the irony of the resistance is that the work that we do, we're always trying to love our pain. And in this particular instance, loving the pain looked like not bringing the light to it.
Beautiful. Yep.
And that's what it took, and that's what it can take to start to shift some of these energies. Because sometimes it does take, okay, I feel it, let me bring my love to it. Sometimes it's just the case of feel it with a place, just an open heart, and let your heart do what it's supposed to do.
Mhm.
And if you are open in your heart, you don't have to think about
Right.
bringing your love and light to it. You're open. You are the love and light. So by going into that darkness, you are the love and light, and just allow yourself to open and become that.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
All right, guys. Well, that was a quick little episode. We have to run. Thank you so much for listening. If this helped anyone, please share it. If you know anyone that's suffering from depression, please send this out to them, because I have suffered a lot in my past, and I'm finally in an empowered position to be able to help people through this, help myself through this, and Ellie is too. So if you want to work with either of us, we can coach you through this process. And please keep sharing this podcast if you're finding value with it. It really helps us out. If you can subscribe or like of any kind, please do. And visit us at mastersofselfuniversity.com. There's a link down below if you're watching on YouTube. And there you can set up a free consultation with any of our amazing coaches at MSU. So thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.